Welcome to episode 17 of the SNARLcast about indie wargames and their design, coming to you from Snarling Badger Studios. I'm Adam, and I'm here with Vince. How you doing, Vince?
I am absolutely fantastic, sir. I've had a very nice weekend. So as we're recording this, it's the end of the weekend. I always end my weekend with you, Adam, and it's always a great day when I do so.
Well, that's good to hear. I do enjoy it. Yeah, the weekend was... I like I was saying earlier, I don't feel like I got much done, but I did get some things done. So I guess that's something at least. In this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about how to do marketing wrong, which is maybe a provocative title. Really, we're going to try to help you do it right, but we're going to do that by showing you how we seem to do it wrong.
That's right. I think it's both us sharing how we've done it wrong and then hopefully putting you on the path to doing it right.
And then maybe we'll do it right at some point. It's hard to say.
At some point. That's going to be part of what we talk about here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. Normally we talk about an update on our games, and then we talk about things we've been working on. Do we want to swap that around, you think?
No, let's talk about the update on our games. It's okay. Let's get straight into it. I think it's good. Okay. So because it's gonna connect to the conversation later. Okay.
Sure.
So we announced in the last episode at the very end, if you listened till the end, you heard what we're working on because we announced it at Nova, which we're going to do probably in the future going on. That'll be the actual formal announcement at Nova.
Yeah. Nova
for our Snarl game.
Yeah. That was a good talk. It was fun. It recorded relatively well. I think that it was because you had your microphone clipped to your, apron, and it kind of was draping. It was pointing away from your face, so I felt like you were a touch quieter than I was.
Gotcha.
So we'll have to keep an eye.
Next time I'll put it on the strap.
Instead. Yeah, no, probably the strap would be the way to go. Yeah, but otherwise, I was surprised at how well it kind of came out, and it was our first kind of video, podcast. In that we just had my phone sitting there running for an hour and a half or whatever, and you got to see our faces moving around and everything like that. But yeah, I think that it's, especially with Nova being what Nova is, I think it's a great place to announce things. Lord knows that kind of getting into the marketing part, a lot of shows, Adepticon, Gen Con, et cetera, are places where companies announce things. And
that's right.
We don't, I don't know, maybe we'll announce the next spring game at Adepticon. You know what I mean?
I would be totally for that. Absolutely.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
I think that this is kind of the beginning of the discussion we're going to have fully later on in the show, which is we're going to change some of the way we market our games. And the first thing we're talking to do is we're announcing the game earlier. So we announced at Nova our Snarl mini game that comes out in the zine we're going to release in November will be Chrome Rangers. Now, right here, right now, right here, right now, right here, right now. Okay, anyways, it's a good song. Sure. Right here, right now, I want to tell everybody, I'm going to give them a behind the scenes thing right away, Adam. Okay. This is what they get when they listen to this.
Yep,
I originally wanted to call this game Chrome Cowboys.
You did.
Okay. So I want you in the comments, if you're watching this on somewhere where you can comment, I want you to tell me which name you like better. Okay. That's it. But it's called Chrome Rangers.
Sure.
So at any rate, I'm going to try to get the people on my side, Adam. That's what it is.
Well, that's something. I was not super keen on Chrome Cowboys, especially since it really wasn't a game about cowboys at all, really.
That's true.
There's that. But it is a game instead about giant stompy robots. But
that's right.
Instead of your standard giant stompy robot game where your robots are actually relatively small, about 6mm scale, maybe inch and a half high tops, roughly in general. Sure. Like your BattleTechs, your Steel Rifts, your Flames of Orions, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Instead, this game is 28mm scale. So
that's right.
Yeah, your robots are going to be between 6 and 8 inches tall.
That's right. Yeah. This is a one-on-one game of mech fighting. It is inspired by anime type action, but with a Wild West setting and vibe. It is about fast, reactive gameplay, wherein you really do.
Wild West.
I mean, kind of, yeah, a little bit of Western.
But it's on a different planet, and it's kind of desert.
It is on a different planet. Yes, you're not
it's
actually in the 1870s.
Right. I'm not trying to do any of that Wild Wild West stuff, you know.
No, there's no mechanical spiders.
No. Right. Yeah. I just want to make that
I just
clear.
it's got that Western vibe. Think more Serenity, right? Or Firefly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, it's fast reactive gameplay. It's all about like basically sort of this kind of actually Aijutsu style or Kendo style fighting between you and your opponent, just scaled up with giant robots and guns. That's the basic idea of the thing. And I'm really excited about it because it gives people a chance to play with their toys. What I mean by this is if you've got a couple of Imperial Knights or similar kind of, walkers, vehicles, whatever you want to say, from 40K, or maybe you've got some Gundams or the 30-minute models or whatever, or even old Transformers toys that are that size. Like, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, any of those things would work. And it gives you a chance to, instead of just smashing your toys together like you did when you were, 6 or 8 or 10, that's what I did. I took my Transformers and just like, pow, 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 pow. Now you get to play an actual very, very fast reactive game with them.
You can also take STL files for robots that you think are cool and just blow them up. You could print 100%. Them, FDM if you wanted to, and because they're going to be considerably bigger, or you could do them resin. Right now, the robot that I'm working on is printed in resin, and at this point, I am now wondering if that was the right plan because it's going to be kind of heavy. He's a bit chunky, but I'm working on it. But yeah, the idea behind it, also the reason that it is also basically 1v1 is that, again, being a micro game in Snarl, there's no solo or co-op. It's really about playing against somebody else, because then that way we don't have to write solo and co-op rules, which, it just adds to the page length. And we're always trying to cut down the page length when we're doing Snarl so that everything can fit. We're currently just about done with development.
That's right. Yeah. Basically, we're wrapping it up literally tomorrow as we're sitting here. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. And then we're heading into editing. So we're on track for all of that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing people, how they react to it, how they enjoy it. Another big benefit of doing it this way with these 28 millimeter models is that you can also then use your 28 millimeter terrain.
That's right.
So if you've already got, ruins for 40K or stuff for, whatever game that you play that's currently 28
building,
millimeter.
Cityscape. Yeah.
Any kind of stuff like that. Fine. Yeah. And it plays on a 3x3. No. Does it?
4x4.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a 3x3 for some reason.
This is the biggest area game we've ever made because it's on a 4x4. So the mech, it's so your mech has lots of room to move and maneuver. This is a very movement focused game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important because the first question everybody's going to ask, and this is a completely understandable question. It's the first question you asked me.
Right.
We'll talk about this more when we actually reveal the full game.
Sure.
Kind of the detail here. But the very first question that everybody's going to ask is, okay, but it's one-on-one. Aren't they just going to walk into the middle and sit there and shoot each other from an inch away and never move again? Mm. Right. And the answer is no. You will not do that.
Oh, there you go.
Don't worry. We're aware that was an issue. And from the jump, from the first moment of design, I knew that was something I wanted to conquer and change. And so we ended up designing the entire game around that. And the guiding principles of this was fast, reactive, movement based. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of things that are always going to be wanting you to move around, get closer to your opponent, get farther from your opponent, move around the board, go touch certain parts and areas of the board, so on and so forth. And so, as a result of that, you will not be standing still in the center. That will not be happening.
Mm-hmm. Which is good. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's where the game is currently. And we're still on track and everything's cool that way. So, and we'll have more surprises to let you know about as we get closer and closer. And then there'll probably be some that we might save until launch. We'll see how things go. We're kind of charting new land here to some degree.
This is a change in our marketing. Like I said, boom.
Yeah,
look at this.
Exactly.
How it sets it all up.
Yeah, exactly. We're just bringing it all together. Have you painted anything or played any games recently?
Yeah, so I was working on a nice. I just finished up yesterday a big 54 millimeter display model. It's this female knight sculpt from Natalia Arach. Sorry. I always want to Englishize her name, but that's not right. Anglicize, I think that would be the proper way to say it. At any
I
rate,
think that is, yes.
So I finished that up. That was pretty cool. I played a little bit of AOS yesterday. So that was a good time. And now I'm working on a bust. So nothing related to any kind of indie gaming, but, worry not.
Mhm.
Because you know what I got on Friday that will be probably the next project on my table once I'm finished up with this bust. I got my Court of the Seven, what's it called? Court of the Sire of the Seven Deaths or something like that. The Trench Crusade faction.
Yeah, the 7-headed serpent.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
I got that whole thing. A buddy of mine printed out like a bunch of different figs from that force for me. And so now I have to put together my list and see what I want to paint. That's the only reason I didn't put them on the deck on the desk next. There we go. That was hard to say.
There you go.
Because I'm not sure exactly what I want my list to be or whatever. So I need to go through and build my list and then I'll paint accordingly.
Nice. What did I worked on? So I finished in my video on Friday as of this recording. So a couple days ago for us was about actually painting an army. It's been a minute since I've painted an actual army, generally being a skirmish guy. So I did paint an army for one-page rules. And I'm already starting to work on the second army, which is the Space Lizards or the Splizzards, if you will. And
that's we all call them. We all call them Splizzards. Yes, correct.
And I'm doing that on Twitch predominantly. But I mentioned in the video that I have a third list written up using the Imperial Guard that I already have painted. So that's cool too. Another 1,000-point list using Imperial Guard I already have painted, which is the whole benefit to using, miniature agnostic rule sets, is that you're like, hey, look, I've got an army done. But I want to work on a fourth army. And I was thinking about it. And I remember that so back in 8th edition, when Primaris came out and those models came out and everything in Dark Vengeance or whatever the heck that box was called.
I don't even remember, but I loved 8th edition when it first launched with like the indexes and stuff. We played a bunch of it. I had a good time. It was horribly unbalanced, but I didn't care. I had fun.
Yeah. It was a good time. And then it wasn't. But but at the time, so going way back, I decided I was going to get into Black Templar a long time ago, sometime around 6th. And then at that point, they got rid of the Black Templar codex. They no longer had a separate codex. I had already built a whole bunch of them and put the special symbols on their shoulder pads and all that kind of stuff because they had that kit you could buy that had all the iconography and all that cool stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And at that point, I was really bummed because now I no longer had a codex. They just kind of folded it into the Space Marines codex, and I was pissed. So I was
just like cheese. They just folded it in.
Exactly. And now like all the codices are all just supplemental codexes. So you don't just buy Space Wolves anymore. You have to buy Space Wolves and then also have the Space Marine one, which is stupid. Anyway, so I decided with all these models that I was going to make a new chapter, but still use that kind of cross symbol that I had on all these stupid models because I built them all that way before I painted them. And then I was going to call them Silver Cross, and they were mainly blue and they had silver shoulder pads. And so then I built a whole bunch of Primaris guys to make a 2,000-point army for 8th. And then 9th came along, and then before I got them painted, and then I didn't like it, and then they just sat in a box. So I'm looking at them now through the lens of one-page rules, and I'm like, I can easily make 1,000 points out of what I have built here.
Sure.
The one thing I can't do is I cannot bring the repulsor, which is the hover tank that's got a little bit of cargo room in it for people.
Okay.
Because there was the impulsor and the repulsor. And the impulsor looks kind of like a pickup truck, and the repulsor is just covered in guns, but like 6 dudes can go inside, or maybe 5.
I believe you, but
I know. Anyway, the thing that's interesting is that in one-page rules, vehicles are incredibly powerful and also incredibly expensive. And like, if you're running, let's say 1,000-point list of Imperial Guard, and you decide you want to take a Chimera, they're over 250 points. So it's like an entire quarter of your army just for a dedicated transport. But that's because they're very powerful and scary, actually, in the game. I believe the repulsor in one-page rules in the Prime Brothers list, which is basically the Primaris list, That thing is like nearly 700 points. And
Wow.
you can't take it in a 2,000 point army if you're following along with the force organization rules, because it is more than a third of the army in a single model or something like that.
Sure. That's crazy.
Yeah. Because it's like actually 726 points or
Yeah,
something
sure.
like
Sure.
that.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. I mean, even if it's
And
just 700, that's more than a third of 2,000. Yes.
yeah. So I was like, all right, well, that's cool. But I can build a 2,000 point list if I use the Redemptor Dreadnought and then all the rest of the guys I have in there. But then I still needed a little bit more, and I needed some 3 Stern Guard. And I was like, I don't want to go buy a box of Stern Guard. It's like $70
Sure.
or some dumb junk like that. Well, as it turns out, there were 3 Stern Guard that were in the Indominus box. So I dug around until I found my Indominus box, and I built those guys and textured their bases this weekend. So all that to say, now I need to figure out what color scheme I'm going to use, because I don't know if I'm going to go with that blue and silver vibe again or not, and all that jazz. And then yeah, we'll eventually. I think I might work on that particular army probably off Twitch. We'll see how it goes. Depends on timing too, as far as like how much time I actually have, depending on hobby stuff for a while here. So
can I just say I love that we've entered your army painting phase. This is hilarious to me. You went from someone who was like, I mean, this shows the power of easy to build, easy army rules, right? Where you feel like the bar is achievable. Because yes, you're building these 1,000 point armies.
sure.
And you're going to say that's not the same thing, blah, 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 all this. It's less
No.
models, it's all that.
The reason
Go ahead.
the reason it's different is because these models are already built. If I was like going to sit down and build a 1,000 point
Sure.
army, not the list, but the actual models, like other than those 3 Stern Guard guys, which were push fit, I didn't have to build any of the rest of the guys in this 2,000 point army because they were already built back in 8th edition. But if I was going to sit down and go, I want to build a whole bunch of like, Primaris dudes and build a Redemptor. I don't want to ever build a Redemptor ever again, man. Those things suck. Like there's just way too many parts. But because they were already like there in the box, I'm like, well, heck, I can do this. But yes, I don't know that I'll go
thankfully,
beyond that.
nothing like 3D printing exists where you can just get the model to pop out whole.
Oh,
basically,
for sure.
or maybe
Absolutely.
attach just a weapon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like that's kind of what I said in the video, is that because this was easy and because the box that they're going to be selling for one page rules is going to have pre-made stuff in it, to my mind, that really moves things along, moves the needle so that I can get through it. If I had to sit down and build GW models, hey, that one guy, he's 12 guys or 12 point parts or whatever, if I had to do that just so that I could then build a 1,000 point army, I would not, is what I would do. So yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We've entered a world where the bar has become low enough because of like 3D printing and easily getting the thing and the ease of the rules and the army building that OPR offers, where you're like, okay, I'll build some armies. I think that's what I'm saying. I'm celebrating this. I think this is like, I think it's a victory of the industry in general, right? Like, and it's funny to me that GW still has all these hurdles they can't crack, like because all those kits are like that, right? Because they don't have 3D prints available, because their army building is still so complicated in their rule systems. Like, I don't want to build a 40K army at all, ever.
Yeah. I mean, beyond the actual army building, list building wise, just the actual figures. Yeah. I if anything, they're going in the opposite direction.
Right.
Like, if anything, they're like, well, let's see if we can't make a single guy 20 pieces. You know what I mean? Like, and just, I don't, but yet they're not customizable. You know what I mean? Like, if it was all those pieces, but yet you could pose them in all kinds of different things, but you can't. You're like, well, you can build that guy with this gun or that gun. That's about it. But it's still 20 pieces. And you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. So anyway, yeah, that's where that's at. It's some hobby, but not running off the rails. I should be doing a little bit more terrain stuff, but I have not necessarily been pushing it as hard as I should. But I have some ideas, and I see that being more of a thing to do hopefully this winter. I have a couple of pieces I'm going to want to print and prime before winter, and we're about to go into a strangely warm kind of.
Now's the time. This is the week.
Yeah, no,
get that
honestly,
spraying in.
Exactly. No, I was a little bummed I didn't do it today, but it's going to be in the low 80s the next couple of days, so I should be fine. And it's not going to rain, so that's cool too.
This is technically the last full week of summer.
Sure. In Wisconsin, or at least in the Midwest in general, you'll be like, oh, it's but then it'll be October and it'll be 85, and you're like, why?
Yeah, by the time our people listen to this, summer is over.
Sure.
So
yeah,
hello.
Yeah.
We're talking to you from the end of summer. Hello.
Fall. Yeah. But it is definitely like, because like 2 weeks ago here, it was like in the 60s, and it was like, oh, okay, it's pumpkin spice time or whatever. And now again, I'm wearing shorts again. So that's just always the way it works. Marketing.
Yes.
Yes, it is a black art.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about let's just lay some foundation here real quick, as always. If you work for a big company, right? As you and I have for vast majority of our lives, worked for normal companies. That is to say, we haven't been YouTubers our whole lives.
You've worked for bigger companies than me, but yes,
sure. But you've worked with, and you have been effectively, you have dedicated marketing people. You've been on that team in some degree before.
Oh yeah. I've worked on marketing teams at different companies. Yeah,
yeah, and this is a job. It's its whole own job, right? I wanted to say that right out of the gate. So clearly this is important. It's something that major companies are willing to invest. Did you know Geico?
I'm
the
familiar
car
with
insurance
them.
company.
With the
You've heard of
lizard.
them?
Yep.
Okay. How much money do you think they spend a year on marketing?
$4 billion.
That's a good number. A little high.
Yeah.
They spend, so the last year they spent about $600 million on marketing. Okay. That's a lot of money. Now, that represents them cutting their marketing budget in half. The year before that, and the year before that, they had spent about 1.2 billion. How crazy is that? Okay. So with a B. My point is that they clearly think marketing's pretty important, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they not only do the lizard, but they usually got 6 other campaigns that are non-lizard related.
Yeah, right.
They got and so they've got things that they just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks.
That's right,
and they can afford to do it too.
Yes, and they're doing it on every channel, right? I don't mean channel. I don't mean channel as
TV channels.
On your television. I mean channel on they have podcast ads and YouTube ads and blah 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 blah. Right? Okay. So look, I mean, we all live our lives inundated by marketing, and that's part of the first problem. So making a game, the thing we normally talk about here, right? We talk a lot about actually making indie games and the various and sundry elements of it. But that's really only the first part. And the reality is it might actually be the easy part. As hard as it is, it might actually be the easier half of the equation.
I would say that, and this is no shade, I would say that potentially writing the game, designing and writing the game is neck and neck with maybe art direction and layout.
Sure.
As far as importance, for sure, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
I'm with that.
And then both of them are to some degree dwarfed by marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Because the problem is you have to actually get people to hear about your game and be interested in it. And that's just really hard in the modern world where, so first of all, it's always been hard. Okay.
Sure.
Because in when we grew up, when we were young, right? The hard part about doing marketing was it was very expensive.
Yeah, it was coming up with the money was the hard part.
You could get an ad on television, and
you could get an ad on TV that people would see and be like, but you'd have to pay for it, and it would be expensive and kind of premium price.
Right. If you wanted to run, if you were making something targeted at a younger audience, and you wanted to run that during Saturday morning cartoons in the late 80s and early 90s, that was not a cheap ad slot.
No.
Right. Or you could do maybe radio or something, but what?
Sure.
It's that your venues
magazines,
of getting
newspapers,
right?
That was
You had these limited, effectively one too many sort of outlets. As you said, by one to many, I mean the newspaper, the television, the radio. They're all one to many. It's one source, many listeners. Whereas now we live in a world where media is many to many. If that makes sense, right? Everything is noise. Okay. We're here talking to you on this podcast. You probably listened to maybe another podcast or watched a YouTube video today. If you don't have YouTube Premium, then you watch some ads. Even if you do have YouTube Premium, during the videos you watch, somebody may have done an ad read in the middle of it, right? So just everything is noise. There is so much information. You pop your social media open. That's a many-to-many form of communication. And it's just, you scroll and it's just noise.
And the price has gone down.
Yes.
Massively. That you could start a Facebook account or an Instagram account or a Blue Sky account or whatever for free, and then be
Right.
like, hey, look at this cool thing I made. But then you have to get people to actually see it, and that's where the thing, like the price has gone away nearly for
Yep.
marketing, but also it's no longer a captured audience. It's no longer as effective as it was. It can be more effective when you start to go niche. There are certain things you can do where you're like, well, if I put this in the local paper, that would be wasted money. But if I spent that same money here on this website that is about this type of gaming or this type of fishing or this type
Mm-hmm.
of like quilting, then those types of people are going to see it. So you have, you have the ability to reach very niche markets, but it's still, then the price goes up again. As soon as
That's
you're
right.
going to do that, then all of a
Yeah, because
sudden, yeah.
there's going to be gatekeepers who are controlling
Mhm.
the access to those niche markets where they have captured audience. Yes.
Not like the
Right?
bad kind of gatekeeper necessarily, but
No, just like the
the more
normal kind.
necessary one, like I have this
Right.
audience and I have server costs and I need to make some money. So yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. So, and in our space, in the indie gaming space, just like the wargaming or gaming writ large, however you want to think about it, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of news every day.
Yep.
Just like the gaming industry produces news
Mhm.
every day. Okay. On stuff that's coming out, new things they're printing, what companies are doing, interviews, podcasts, all this kind of stuff. This cool new model, this cool new game, blah, 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 blah. Right. And
Mhm.
so if you have your little indie game and you don't have like a big following already, like getting your thing you're putting out there in the world to become signal amongst the noise is really challenging. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today in detail, right? How we've handled it in the past, and I think where we failed or come up short, and how
Mhm.
you might handle it, and so on based on where you are.
Mhm.
So the first thing to say, and we've mentioned this many times, is you and I often talk about how we cheated, right?
Sure,
We
right.
we
Yes.
cheated by spending 10 years building YouTube followings.
Right. And we've said this also many times too, is that when people have asked us in the past, hey, I want to get into game design, what's the first thing I should do? We always say build an audience,
Right.
because you are so much further ahead of the game if you have an audience before the game than you are. Well, I'm mixing my metaphors here. You're further along in success if you have an audience before the game as opposed to a game before the audience. Because if you make the game, now you have to spend all this time trying to build an audience. And so hopefully you can do both at the same time. You can be working on the game, but also working on building an audience, whether it is, making an Instagram account and posting cool models or kit bashes of things that you're doing, or showing little 4-step tutorials on Blue Sky, or starting some sort of group on Facebook that is for people who love to paint robots, or whatever. Like figuring something out like this, whether it's a podcast or a YouTuber or any kind of social media. When the reason you see so many people now in our kind of area in YouTube and stuff like that making games is because they have an audience that will be hopefully receptive to them more
Right.
so than when a person is just like, I made a game and nobody knows who I am and now I have to try to get attention.
That's right. Now, but I want to talk about the fundamentals here of how you break through, because I agree. Like
Mhm.
building an audience is a good way to go. You're not always going to have that or have the opportunity for that. And we'll talk later on
Sure.
about how there are some ways that you can try to build that signal, even if you don't have a following. I think it is possible.
Mhm.
Okay. But I think it's tough. But like ultimately, I want to start with what I would call the fundamentals. Okay. Because marketing splits into sort of two key categories, right? Which is like the messaging and the medium.
Mhm.
Okay. Or as I will call it, marketing classic and marketing new. Okay. The message and how you message things to make people interested in them literally has not changed since the human race discovered sales. Okay.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's just human psychology has not changed that much. It's been the same crap forever and ever and ever since we were, you know, I don't know, selling copper in Babylonia or whatever it happens to be. All right. Like it's the same principles, right? Effectively, that like number one thing is you got to talk about the value that you're going to deliver to the user. That's it. So we talk about in my job right now, I work closely with a lot of marketing people. And the number one thing is you got to talk about the value you're going to bring. Why should they care? Right. And that starts by having a simple elevator pitch. You and I have always talked about this when we do our games, right? Having one simple sentence that you can break down the game to very quickly and easily. And like within 1 to 2 sentences, you should be able to talk about what's cool about your game, why it's different, why they should care, right? Like that's it.
So once you've got your elevator pitch kind of worked out, and I would definitely, just like what you do when you're building your games, you want to play test them.
Yeah.
And you want to do the exact same thing with your elevator pitch. Like the worst thing that can happen is someone's like, so tell me about your game. And you're like, all right, well, so there's this guy, he's the emperor. And then, so he made a bunch of Primarchs, which were babies, but then they got stolen. And like, nobody cares. Like, that's not, the story is not part of
exactly.
the deal.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Do not do that. Yes.
No. It completely starts with explaining something. Like, if we were going to make an elevator pitch for 40K, it would be basically, it is a squad-sized, or I'd say like an army style miniatures game. Like, and again, it also depends on who your audience is. If I have to explain it to someone who doesn't know anything about wargaming, that's a harder sell because now I have to explain the concept of wargaming to that person. My hope is I'm trying to explain this to a person who at least already knows what wargaming is. So if the person knows what wargaming is, I'm going to say it is an army-size game, with 20 some different factions and an entire line of models. And boy, you got to buy a lot of books. I don't know. I honestly don't know how I could probably
how would
sell
I pitch 40K? Sure, I'll tell you I'd pitch 40K.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Warhammer 40K is a miniature army game set in the grim darkness of the far future where humanity sits on the brink of extinction. And the entire
story.
Yeah, you can mention a little bit of that, right? Like that's okay.
Guess, yeah.
Like your elevator pitch should have different things that draw people in. A little bit of lore, a little bit of how the game plays, because it's all value prop, right? It's all the value proposition.
Depends on the length of the elevator, I suppose. If it's
That's
a 4-story building,
if I was going to do my one sentence, it'd be that, right? Set in a gritty, dark, far future where aliens are all around, the forces of the apocalypse are all around, and humanity is on its last leg and has collapsed into darkness, fighting for its continued existence, right? And then if I had a second sentence, I'd say, you take the role of either humanity's last defenders or space elves or space orcs or giant bugs, lots of different sci-fi tropes that you think are cool and you already know. And you engage in big giant battles with cool guns and weapons trying to kill the opponent before they kill you. There you go.
It doesn't say anything about the game.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think that the elevator pitch, you got to be careful. And this is just it, right? Like figuring out your elevator pitch. When we do ours, we tend to give them a little more because like with 40K, it's probably like if you're pitching to someone, they maybe have already heard of Warhammer in some degree, right?
Sure.
Like it has
Video
some kind of social awareness. Yeah, they played like Dawn of War, or they watched the Amazon series that their thing, the secret level episode or whatever it was, right? Like that might be it's in the zeitgeist. When you're pitching your game, you've got to like how we talked about Chrome Rangers earlier, right? Or when we first did Rain in Hell, we were like, it's a fast-paced, brutal, miniatures agnostic skirmish war game of demon on demon combat in a post-apocalyptic hell, right? So there's a little bit of lore, right? Talking about post-apocalyptic hell. There's a little bit of like how the game plays, fast, brutal, right? Skirmish combat, that kind of stuff. Okay, that tells me things, right? And there's a little bit of like what I would call form factor stuff, which is also what skirmish falls into, as well as miniature agnostic, right? So they know kind of what they're about. I think those are kind of the 3 categories of the thing, right? Like what's the physical tactile experience? What's the game style? And what's it about?
Sure.
Right? Those are your 3 main categories you're trying to fit into those 2 sentences. And it's hard. It's hard to get the 2 sentences exactly correct, right?
but it's something you really need to work on, because if you're
Yes.
at a show, even if it's a little tiny, like little dinky, convention that's local to you or whatever, and you got a booth, when someone's going to walk up and be like, "So what's this all about?" You have to be able to set that hook fast.
Fast.
If you start off by going, "Well, you see, 16 years ago, I thought to myself," you've lost them already. You just need to be able to get like a incredibly quick, like, okay, I would like to know more. That is literally all you're trying to do with your elevator pitch, is to get them to want to know a little bit more.
It is shocking to me how many people at like conventions, by the by, fail this test. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When I was at Gen Con over the summer, I was interested in picking up a new role-playing game. So I literally went to every booth that had role-playing games on offer, and I said, "Pitch me. What's your pitch?" This is their perfect scenario. I am the
Right.
customer you were waiting for. Like, I am going to buy something. Okay.
You are receptive. Yeah, exactly.
I am receptive. I am asking you. You didn't have to, sometimes you're walking by a booth and you make eye contact and they're like, "Hey, you interested in blah, blah, blah?" Whatever. Okay. That's
And you're
usually
like,
the amount of time you
you run
actually have.
away.
And
Yeah.
you're like, "No, I'm good." But no, I directly walked up and said, "I would like you to pitch me." And the number of people, the number of booths where they didn't have a clean, concise pitch was shocking to me. I'm like, this is your game. You have 10 different books you've published related to this game. How do you not have a tight pitch?
Yeah.
Right? How's this not the first thing? When you did book 1, you're 10 books deep.
Yeah. Like, because I used to exhibit at Gen Con way back in the day when it was in Milwaukee. And by the end of by the end of Sunday, you would just be like, I would have my pitch honed so much,
right,
that it was just I could sneeze and put it out there by accident. It was just because you just keep saying the same thing over and over again. Especially if you're at a small convention, you'll learn to kind of iterate it. You'll be telling people stuff, and then you'll start to see what kind of gets a reaction and what doesn't, and then that can help you to kind of do it. But not everybody goes to a convention, and we get that. But it is a smart play, honestly, even if it's a small local convention. Just to, and again, like I said, even if you don't go to a local convention, bounce it off your friends, bounce it off your family, and then
you need something for Twitter. You need something for Instagram. You need something for like those quick pitches, literally something that can fit on a thumbnail of a video or whatever you're going to do when we talk about the medium later, right?
Yeah.
And you can't put a paragraph of text up there.
Right?
No.
You've got to distill it down. I mean, to be perfectly frank, most of the distillation probably should have happened during design.
Right.
If you have guiding principles, those guiding principles, many of those words will show up in your pitch.
They should just emerge right up into the pitch. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is to communicate quickly, like the value, the experience, what it is, the differentiation, what makes it different from other games in the market. Like, why would they want to experience this, right? And you need to do that efficiently. And it is sort of the old Mark Twain, like, "Sorry, this letter's so long, I didn't have time to make it short," kind of thing. Like, it does take work to hone it down to be that quick and efficient. But if you get them with the pitch, then, right, there was one, like the book I ended up buying, the person had a good pitch, right? What I ended up buying was this RPG called The Blue Rose. And when the guy pitched me, he was like, so he said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, because I don't remember exactly, but it was something to the effect of, "Sure. So it's a game of romantic fantasy, role-playing, like, don't think like that. I don't mean anything gross. Like, set in the chivalric age. So if you like King Arthur and stories like that, where, you're a knight trying to do great deeds and rescue your love and that kind of stuff, this is the game for you." And I was like, okay, tight pitch. I'm interested. Tell me more. I like King Arthur, right?
Sure.
I like that whole stuff. And so he pulled me in. And then I was like, and now you've opened the door. Now is when you can go into the deeper stuff.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. You can't lead off with the deeper stuff because the person will get lost in the weeds so quickly. I made that joke before about like, okay, so there's the emperor, right?
Right.
Like
that meme of the guy at the baseball game explaining to his girlfriend. Yeah, you don't want to be in that position.
Yeah. Yes. No, you don't. And that is a definite turn off, and people will shut down, specifically me. Like, that's the thing. If anyone ever is like, "Hey, so can I tell you about my board game?" Already, I'm starting to fade. And then as soon as they start talking and start telling me like, "Well, it's a trick-taking game or it's an area control," I'm immediately I've forgotten my name and I have sat down. and whether there's a chair or not. I'm sitting on the ground, and so I'm not necessarily the person. Of course, you should be trying to do that too. But when a person does seem interested, you need to have something you can throw at them real quick.
That's right.
And kind of set that hook.
And if you open the larger conversation, like as you go deeper beneath the elevator pitch, the thing you're going to want to answer is the following questions. Like I'm going to give you the nitty and the gritty. You have to answer these questions. Why this game? Okay. Why should they want to play this game? Why should they want to play it now? Right? Like what's exciting about it that makes them want to get their hands on it and experience it? Okay. And what makes this unique? Right? What is the thing that sets you apart that they will find their investment pays off because they get to experience something novel or interesting or fun or different or whatever, right?
I think that people don't understand the power of that, because I get people from time to time when I talk about something like one page rules, for an example, on a YouTube video. I will get people who will say, well, it's basically just the same as 40K. And then my response will be, but it is easier and cheaper.
Right.
And that's your differentiation.
That's the differentiation. Yes.
Like that's yeah, exactly. So if you can go to people, it's much like 40K, but it's easier and cheaper. People who are thinking that 40K is too expensive and too hard will be like, tell me more. That is literally the thing. And so that's why, like in Hollywood, they're like, yeah, we got this idea for this movie. It is Aaron Brockovich meets Star Wars, or whatever.
Sure.
You take two things and you
First
slap
of all,
them
that
together.
sounds amazing.
It kind of sort of does a little bit. But yeah, it is a situation where when you can give people terms they understand very quickly,
right,
they can also understand it. And then, but yeah, if you explain something and at the end of your paragraph long diatribe, they go internally, unless they're, necessarily rude, then they would do it externally and just say it out loud. And they'd be like, oh, so you mean it's 40K? Or, oh, so you mean it's bolt action? Or, oh, so you mean it's, Battletech? Then you go, well, no, because it is this. So you want to lead with that to some degree.
Exactly. Because then you're on the back foot and you're having to explain, no. See, it's not like Battletech because of this, right?
Right.
Exactly. If you just wear the things that if you have an homage or something that you're relatively close to in the market, wear that on your sleeve, right? It's okay. You can say it, right? It's fine. You don't being like having drawn on some other game or being relatively in the same space does not instantly make you like a bad heartbreaker or something like that. We've talked about heartbreakers before. What you got to answer then when you're able to go deeper is like, that's where you can talk about things like, well, here's the story. Here's the hook of the story, right? Again, you're not starting with the lore or whatever, like your Emperor story, right? You would say like, well, it's this, again, just a return to 40K because it's easy. It's like the world is gritty and grim. Billions and billions of people toll in this giant machine that all it is there for is to allow humanity to fight an endless battle where they shovel billions of lives to the front line like grist in a mill, all to simply continue existing. Right. And like, that's the
very lore. Well, it is. I would lead off with humanity is beset on all sides.
Sure.
And then eventually you get to the point about the grist and the machine and all that stuff.
I'm saying when I'm going deeper. Yes.
Yeah. But I would start off by like, humanity is beset and and there's all these different races and blah, blah, and all that kind of stuff. And you can go down that road. But the idea is that either your game doesn't need to have so much lore so that it's not like it's going to take you a really long time to explain it all to this person. Or you can, again, you've got it dialed in and you've practiced it enough to some degree that you can give this still tight but expanded kind of pitch to them about, we honestly put on the back of every game, we put a little paragraph of our games.
Right. Yep.
That says kind of what it is. And that's not just like, oh, I'll just quick type this up. Like that's a thing that we kind of go, well, should we change this word? Should we move that over there? Should we move?
Right.
And it's like, it's definitely something you don't want to just like afterthought kind of drop out there. You want to definitely think about that information.
And this is also a great chance for you to then set out what are the really cool things in a bigger way, right? Like, oh, we've got this really cool campaign system. You have this deep magic item system. Like in Rain and Hell, this is where we would have talked about like the title system, right?
Mhm.
Or in Majestic 13, that's where we talk about the presence of bureaucracy and how it's neat that it gets in the way of everything and interacts with you
Mhm.
because you're part of this governmental agency, right? Or whatever. Or, right? You can talk
Exactly.
about these cool, neat, unique things that you have and explain them a little more deeply. Because now that you've got them hooked, that's what helps you, like, quote unquote, reel them in, as it were. Like, you
Mhm.
get what I mean? Like, that's what's going to move them from like, I'm interested to like, okay, this sounds awesome. Right.
Right. So once you've got that nailed down, then how does a person get even that elevator pitch? I mean, besides standing around at conventions and,
Sure.
buying a booth and all that kind of stuff, like how do you get that out the door? How do you get that to people so that they start to care?
Okay. So this is where we move from the message to the medium, right? From things that
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
always been true to things that change all the time. We talked about that earlier, how like the nature of how you communicate your message to people, well, that changes all the time with whatever technology happens to be present, right?
These days,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's just, there's just completely different tool sets available now. And so let's cover the obvious stuff. Number one, I do think small conventions, there's a lot of smaller game conventions where you can get a booth set up pretty easily. Things like TMX, the convention you run up in Oshkosh
Mhm.
every basically June.
Sure.
That's that kind of convention, that size. You got 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, whatever. Generally, the exhibitor or the people who run them are happy to have people show up and run games or set up a little booth or whatever. It's usually not that much money, if any at all. And that's a great chance to like hook some people in. You're going to, because the
Yeah.
people who are there are pretty intense gamers, right? And they're
Oh, for
there
sure.
often because they're looking for something interesting.
People that go to conventions are pretty serious about gaming.
Right.
Your average person who's just kind of sort of into it doesn't generally go to conventions. So yeah, you're definitely going to be getting a more specific and interested audience when you're at a convention like that.
And let me say, when you're there, one of the things you can do when you're playtesting it or whatever with people or playing it for people or doing demos or talking to people about it is you can be refining your pitch, like you mentioned, with those live humans. And you could even be like grabbing some cool footage of like people playing the game and stuff like that that
Hmm.
you can then use in the other mediums later, right? Here's some cool
Yeah,
photos of people playing my Attack on Glorb, the new game that I put out. Check it out. People had a great time. Had a great time at TMX this last weekend playing Attack on Glorb with people. And then you've got like a photo of you with like 5 people all doing the thumbs up over your Attack on Glorb board or whatever.
right, exactly. The thing is I would say in this day and age, the most important thing is to build a website.
Yes.
Because you can have social media, you can have Facebook, you can have Instagram, you could have YouTube, you could have a podcast, but you
And
need to be
all
able
of
to
those things
reference.
are good and useful, right? But they're hard to build
Absolutely.
on their own. Yes.
But they should all, in most situations, eventually send you back to the place where you can sit down and, for people who are interested, you can again on your website start out with the a little bit more shallow pitch to get the people interested, and then give them pages to click on to go read more about it. Look at the miniatures if you make miniatures. Read a bit of the stuff. Like our website doesn't get heavy into lore, but that's because our games don't get heavy into lore. But they definitely tell you what's going on in
Yeah.
each one of the games.
We
We
give you the
always take
idea.
some,
We give you a little bit of lore, a little bit. You get the
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we sit down and tell you on, because our website is different in that, like, you go to a different page for each game that we make because we keep making more games. So you go to the Space Station Zero page, and there will be like three little boxes. Like there's the first big graphic, and there's kind of some quickie sort of like
Which has sort of
marketing
an elevator
stuff.
pitch line on it, usually of some kind. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And then you get into like, this is where you can buy it. Click on these links. We want you. You don't want them to put that. You don't. I don't want to put that stuff at the bottom. I want to put it directly under the big like hook image with a little bit of like,
Right.
hey, this is what's going on. And then they'll scroll past it because they want to find out more. And that's fine. But then they won't have to keep scrolling all the way to the bottom to be able to click on it and buy it. You want to put that higher up on the page. And then you want to have some stuff about it, some more imagery, some text. And again, we're not going super deep. Like if you were making a game, if you are making a game that is kind of more of an ecosystem game, this is the thing that you're going to keep adding to, and it's going to be the title you do over the next X amount of years. Then you're probably going to want to get deeper into factions and this and that and all that kind of stuff. But on our games, like, our games all have factions in some fashion or other for the most part, and we just don't touch on that for the most part because that's what the book is about. We explain that there are factions out there. We might mention some of them, but we don't give you all the background on them and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because it's about quick, I get to skim this, look at it, go, and then go from there. Because you don't want to beat them to death with depth and text and all that kind of stuff. You want to keep it kind of simple, but you have to have a website that allows people to find all that stuff. If they find you on Instagram, you need to be able to tell them, hey, go check out the website for all the information. If they find you on YouTube, hey, check out the website for all the information. It has to be that way. You can't decide, I'll just send them to like a Facebook page. God forbid you just send them to a Facebook page. Like if you're going to be like, seriously, like, and this is not an ad, but Squarespace costs like $250 a year. It's really not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
if that is the majority of your marketing budget, then it's money well spent, because all the rest of that stuff, all the rest of those different social media things are predominantly all free unless you decide to start, buying, Instagram / Facebook ads or something like that, which can have its ups and downs for sure. But it's really about, I think the core is the website. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so let's move to the social media discussion, because that's obviously going to be the thing that you want. As you said, you're trying to drive people back to the site, but you're doing that a lot through the different social media platforms. And obviously every social media platform has like strengths and weaknesses with different age cohorts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like that is to say Facebook skews older, TikTok skews younger, those kinds of things. That kind of short form video content, this is a thing that you and I have just like never really been good at or want to do. I don't engage with it in my normal life. Like that is to say, I don't have any presence. I don't watch any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So like this is the area where we've been the weakest, right? But I think if you could make hay of it, if you were good, if you had a good social media presence or a TikTok presence or something like that already, yeah, then build on that.
I mean, I do some YouTube shorts from time to time for my personal Tabletop Minions page. For a while, before things got real busy, I was basically, a video would go up on Friday, and then either Monday or Tuesday, I would grab a section of that video, wrangle it into a vertical kind of space, and then put in the captioning so that a person can read it without having to necessarily turn it up or whatever.
Sure.
Which always drives me nuts when people are like watching a bunch of vertical videos with that volume turned all the way up. I would rather die.
Savages.
Yeah, indeed. But I would do that, and then the thing about doing it on YouTube Shorts is that at the bottom there's a little button you can just push. It will tell you, it'll take you back to the actual original long form video. Which, if you're on something like TikTok or Reels, there's no way to get them back to your YouTube, or sometimes not even back to your website. So I've done some of that, and I've had some success. I somehow made a video. I made a video about Sharpie creative markers, and the video, that went up on a Friday did okay, but the short form did 250,000 views in like 2 weeks, and I have no idea why. So neither of us is necessarily the strategery. Yeah. Neither of us is that person to tell you how to do your short form video, but there's a lot of people out there on the internet who would love to tell you how to do it. So you could probably find some of that information out there, but it's not a bad idea.
Right.
And especially if you build it in a way where, you can use it in YouTube Shorts. You can also use it in Instagram Reels, which then also become Facebook Reels. And if you want to get into TikTok and go down that road, you could do that. I mean, all of those things are viable and can help build basically some, I hate to say buzz, but at least it'll get people so they start to know about you. I think Facebook is, unless you're making stuff for, people, if you're making historicals and stuff like that, Facebook might be something good because again, well, I'm just saying it does. It skews older. And I don't know about Instagram these days. I mean, both of us have I've slowed way down on posting on Instagram because it's just a mess. And so that's the other problem that we're finding now, of course, with social media, is that it's not nearly as effective as it used to be. And by used to be, I mean like 3
because
years
on
ago,
almost all these things, every other thing is an ad or a bot or something garbage AI generated or whatever, right? Slop. So those kinds of things. Yeah. And you're going to have to fight through that. That's the problem. There's just like so much more noise. But I'll tell you, the number one thing I think, regardless of all that, like use the social media platforms, use them, try to build it. That alone is not going to do it. Your marketing plan cannot be, I share stuff on social media. Okay, that's not going to
Right.
work, right? That can't
No.
be it. But what I'll say is when you do share stuff out there, the actual important stuff, but no matter the particular app you're sharing it through, if people engage with you, engage back. Okay.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
people leave a comment and ask a question about your game or say anything like, hey, that sounds neat, respond back. Be like, hey, yeah, cool. You can check out more here. Or thanks for checking it out. I'm glad you think it looks awesome. Or whatever. Just like leave them a comment. Do something. Engage with them. That will do a huge that does a huge amount for moving them up to being interested.
Wherever you can get a foothold.
Yes.
That is that then wherever you can do that, even a little bit of a one, you have to definitely engage with the people that engage with you. Because yeah, if you just go, oh cool, I got a bunch of people and they said some stuff, but I didn't like answer any of it, or no, you can't. Like
If you just ghost them,
we both, yeah,
okay, then nothing happens.
like we both still, I mean, I know I do, and I'm pretty sure you do, read every comment that we get on our YouTube channels and
Correct.
stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, I don't leave a comment for every single one because sometimes they don't, like if there's a question, I try to answer it, things like that. But
Absolutely.
someone's just like, hey, that was really cool. I don't necessarily make a comment and go, thank you, I appreciate that. But with YouTube, the big benefit is that the creator of the video can hit that little heart button.
Yes.
So now like it's like a thumbs up versus thumbs down, but this one is a thumbs up from the creator. So you know it came from me. So I hit that all the time,
100%.
you know, to let people know, hey, I liked what you said there. I appreciate it. But I didn't.
You took the time to write it. I'm going to take the time to read it and tell you thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is just really important, especially when you're trying to grow an audience in some fashion. And so, you know, that's something to think about. Like I made this game and I put it up on Wargame Vault and nothing happened. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that gets put up on Wargame Vault every single day. And there is a little kind of track on there that shows here's the most recent new rule sets or whatever and that kind of stuff. So some people will see it on the first day or so, if you put up a new thing, and then eventually it will scooch off that page, and then now it's up to you, really.
Yeah, I want to talk about some other interesting kind of orthogonal ways that you can kind of get out there real quick. Because I want to end on just timing and have a little discussion on that, and then we'll call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
My last thoughts are, one, there's a lot of podcasts, and if you're making a game and you want to get your word out there, maybe reach out to those people who run those podcasts, see if they'd have you on as a guest. Lots of people, like we're often looking for guests. You know, we love having indie war game creators on, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did it with the guys from 1490 Doom. We're going to do it with Tomas from Trench Crusade here once we get the scheduling worked out and stuff, right? So like people will often be happy to have you on their podcast or something. It's content. People who do regular content like that have a hungry machine that needs to be fed.
But don't expect that if you just reach out to a podcast that they're going to throw you on there. That's
right.
The thing.
You need to have some established presence where you can show this is what I've done. If you have your own channel, if you have your own social media presence, if you have stuff shared out there, that's what's going to make them be like, okay, this person's not a lunatic.
Exactly. The other thing is, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an email from someone that said, hey, I made this game and it's really cool and I think you might be interested. Would you like to know more? And they don't put a link to their website in there.
Yep.
Because then I now have to email them back and say, well, yes, I guess I would like you to, and then we're just going to email this. No, just if I was going to be like, it's like a fire and forget missile. Basically, if you're going to send an email out and go, hey, I made this thing, I thought of you, blah, 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 whatever, and actually do think of them. Like the amount of emails I get from people who are like, oh, we love your channel and we'd really love it if you would talk about our product on your channel. And you're like, this has nothing to do with my channel. So I don't think you love my channel. That's more for sponsorship. But, you know, it's so much better to just be like, and here's a link you can find out more if you're interested, and let it go from there. Like that's the thing. And that's another reason why you got to have a website. Like that's really, really, really important.
It shows that you're for real about this. Again, if people, when you reach out to those podcasters, if you say, here's a link to my social media, here's a link to my YouTube channel, here's a link to my website, check me out. If you're interested, I'd love to come on and talk about it. You are way more likely to be successful than if you just if you just hit them on Twitter and say, hey, can I come on your podcast? Like, no is the answer. Okay. It's that simple. So that's one thing I would say. Number two, of the sort of different unusual ways is there's lots of like news aggregator sites, that kind of push out to various sort of feeds and stuff. And for all the stuff for indie wargaming, for things like that, you can get onto those pages, right? Like you can send them quote unquote press releases or whatever to get on those aggregator sites as well, right? Now, those don't get a ton of eyeballs on its own, but it's all something. And you can usually include your website and stuff like that. It's just another method. Like because ultimately, for someone to probably get your message, they have to hear it multiple times. The more you can kind of mirror wall them where they keep seeing it no matter
Yep.
where they go, the more successful you're likely to be. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's not a quick process.
Right.
It is definitely something that takes some time or takes money, whichever one that you want to have spend more of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There is no simple plan. There is no turnkey. This is the way to do it. Anyone who tells you that is trying to sell you something. And but that's just the way it works. So, which is why we always say it, you want to start by trying to build an audience. Start a blog. People are getting into blogs all of a sudden again. You know what I mean? So why not? But yeah, it's really all about having to put your message out there and kind of work at it. We've, luckily cheated in that we spent a decade each building YouTube channels. So let's talk a little bit about how we have done it and how we want to change things, maybe, right?
That's right. And this gets into the timing conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because the next question to logically ask is, well, how, when, how much, and all of that kind of stuff, right? Which is the timing question. We've covered the message, we've covered the medium, now we've got the time. And when we first did it, the very first game, when we released Reign in Hell, we just did like this little 7-day marketing plan because nobody expected us to be making a game. So we started with like these little teases, and everybody's like paying attention. They're like, "What's going on? What are Adam and Vince up to?" Oh, we didn't even like actually reference to each other. We just let people figure out that we were both posting related weird teases, right?
Yep.
And then when it happened, it was big news because it was our first game, right? And where we failed is we didn't adjust our marketing plan as we went over time. We both make videos. We've updated some stuff. Like we started doing battle reports at launch and have other videos to supplement. Like this is what a play experience looks like and all of that. The problem is we start talking about our games. We have been previously. Obviously, we've changed now to like a week before. And we really didn't even talk about the game itself really until the day it released.
The first game, like nobody really knew other than those kind of weird and cryptic posts on like Twitter back in the day and like Instagram and crap like that. And then we were like, hey, look, we made a game. And people were like, whoa. And then we did it again a year later. And then people knew when they started seeing 7 days of strange crap on our social media, they're like, oh, something's coming. And then the day that the game comes out, now you learned it's Space Station Zero and this is what it's about and that kind of stuff. And we've been doing that ever since, where you don't really know the name of the game or really much of what it's about or anything like that. There's just hints and weird things for like a week, and then boom, there you go. And that was cool initially because it had like a big it had a bigger impact to some degree. I've said for years, I would absolutely just think it would be absolutely masterful if the folks over at Valve, the video game company, just dropped Half-Life 3 one day.
Sure.
Just like no preamble, no like, hey, this is coming. Oh, just like all of a sudden one day it just shows up on Steam and people are like, wait, what? And it just comes out of nowhere. I think that would be a huge coup of marketing. But again, it would not be their first rodeo. Like this is something they've been doing for 25 years or whatever.
Yeah,
so they have that background. We now are looking at it from the aspect of like, we should probably try to, partially it's just trying to see what works, and trying things differently. But partially it's also like, if we put the information out there and get it into people's minds, then potentially it just generates a little bit more kind of thought about it before the game actually launches. And in some word of mouth, if you hear us talking about it on the podcast and you mention it to your friend who doesn't listen to the podcast, now they know about it. And maybe when it comes out, then they're like, oh, that's interesting. I want to pick that up and that kind of stuff. It
has to do with that multiple messages thing. Like really, we're just falling in line with how every other thing is marketed in the modern world. Like
generally, yeah.
James Gunn, obviously the guy who wrote and directed the most recent Superman movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just like a week ago put out coming June or July, something 2027, Superman Man of Tomorrow, right? And that's like the name of the next Superman movie. That's like 2 movies down the road because there's a Supergirl movie coming in between, right? And he used like the picture of, or a picture effectively drawn like a comic style of Superman with Lex Luthor in his power armor, right?
Mhm.
And so like they're hyping that. You're already seeing like they released the first image, like the images of Doctor Doom in his army for like Doomsday or whatever for the movie coming out December of 2026.
The Marvel stuff, yep.
The Marvel one, right? But like
Mhm.
I just watched the Witcher trailer for season 4 of The Witcher where they're switching over the main actor or whatever. Kind of. Anyways, but that's my point, right? Like that stuff, they tease it well in advance, and then they don't. It's not constant. They tease it, then it kind of quiet for a minute. Then you get other teases, and then it's quiet, and then it get other teases. So it keeps creating this like wave form in the news and in the conversation, right? And I think there is some value to that. So that's kind of what we're moving to the more standard model of where we talk about this game. Hopefully people like will engage, ask us questions, be interested, and we'll share more of it over time. Maybe not every single week on the podcast, but we'll talk about it, right? And the reality is that I think there's just the timing is if you're going to do the thing, if it's like your first game and you're not sure when you're going to release it, don't put yourself over a barrel. That's what I'll say, right? Like, do not set a fake date for yourself if you don't know you can hit it. If you know for sure that you can, if the game is done and written and edited and you got the art and the layout and all that stuff, and you're going to release in 1 month from now, okay, start talking about it. It's fine.
Sure.
Right? But do not in the middle of it say like, hey, I'm going to be making this new game. When's it come out? No idea. What's happening? No idea. Right? Like that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Like we were able to kind of drop it out of nowhere because we already had audiences. But if you don't have much of an audience built, like again, if like referencing before, if you started a blog where you talked about, I don't know, miniatures agnostic kit bashing, and then you've been getting people, you're getting, I don't know, X amount of views per month or whatever the deal is and everything like that. And then you write and finish this game and play test it and everything. And you're kind of doing that all in quiet. And then one day you're like, hey, I'm working on this thing. Like that can over time, even before it's finished, it's kind of helped to start your audience, start to expect it, maybe get some buzz, ask some questions. They might go, well, what about this or that, and that kind of thing. And again, builds engagement.
You could put out a free version of it that's like the playtest version. That's kind of the stripped down basic stuff. I've seen lots of small indie creators do this kind of thing where they just put out a free version of it and say, hey, this isn't final, but check it out. I'd love some feedback, right? You can play it today. Just grab this PDF. I host it on my site. That gets people also driven to your site. So they start looking, and then you could have little updates and blog posts and stuff like that. Yes. Like, again, my answer is once you know you're going to do it, and it's not just like some silly idea in your head, then talk about it, right? And you want to talk about it a lot. Like it's not just, I released the game and now I'm done. I made a video. No. It's going to be an ongoing thing that you need to constantly talk about.
That's a thing that we're also bad at.
This is true.
We don't do that nearly as much as we should.
No.
But it's partially just because each of us has got multiple jobs and things like that. This is also the big difference between if you do this as a living versus if you do this not as a living. Like, if this is just a little side gig you do for, you can get more people. Let's say you're making this game and you're going to be, I don't know, you make it pay what you want on like, Wargame Vault.
Sure.
This is not something you're looking to pay your car loan with. This is not something you're looking to make. This is something you're doing because it's the first game you've made and you want to put it out there and then see where it goes. I would still tell you to have some sort of website. I would still tell you to do like the things we've been talking about, but also don't beat yourself up if it's not something where you don't hit it like every week. You know what I mean? Or that kind of thing. It's because you also may decide to just start working on the next game, and you could still go back and say, hey, look at this and hey, look at that. And again, that's a thing that we need to get better at as well, mainly me. But it is definitely something that the thing about marketing is this: it never reaches everybody.
Right.
But every once in a while, it reaches the right person. And that right person could be anybody. I mean, like, I'm not just saying a person who decides, I'll go download it or I'll go buy it. But maybe it reaches someone who is like, this is super awesome. I want to talk about this on my podcast. Or this is super awesome. We're a publishing company, like Osprey or Modifius. We know people who have written things and been doing their own games, and now eventually they do things that get published through both Modifius and Osprey, because those companies like to publish other people's stuff, and that's very cool. And then you can go from something where you're like, well, I'm not very good at layout, and my artwork is kind of to then them having to take care of that, and then you get something that looks like a much more professional thing that could technically end up in stores, all kinds of things like that. And it might just be because you did enough marketing that eventually some guy saw it who sent it to another guy or a lady or whatever. And then boom, now they're reaching out to you, and that can be your next thing. Like, I know people who got day jobs from their YouTube channels.
That's
and
right.
It was, just because they had been making the videos about, Warhammer Fantasy. One of the famous ones was, at least in my mind, was this woman named Joey Berry, and she used to make all these videos for about Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, and then eventually she got hired from the company that makes Total War Warhammer, because they hadn't made Total War Warhammer yet, but she got hired to work as basically like content manager for the forums, because there was no Discord back then and all that kind of stuff. And then she was doing that, and then she went up, and then she eventually became like brand manager, and like now she works for a different company and all that kind of stuff. And all that came from her like making YouTube videos and having a good time with it. But somebody saw it who was looking for that type of thing. And that's the most important thing about marketing. It doesn't reach everybody, but sometimes it reaches the right person.
That's right. My summary would be tight message, show what the value is, why they should care now, why they should care about this thing. Build on it once you've got them interested, but keep it tight to begin. The medium is everything. Like, work in all the forms of medium you're comfortable with. One thing I didn't say earlier, but I want to say now, is be authentic. Like, you have a passion for this thing you created, share that passion. Right? If people if people see you're excited, that you're passionate, they will become excited, or some will. Right? And then third is timing. Win early and often. That's the timing of it, right?
Yeah.
That would be my summary over the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, again, I wouldn't talk about it too much if it's your first game until you're actually ready to launch. I would not even, I would give yourself an extra month. Like, if you're like, 100%. I could publish this today, I would still wait a month and then try to build something out of the audience that you already have and try to go from there, and then go from there. But doing it the way we were doing it in the past, where you basically just didn't talk about it till it launched, that worked cool the first time, but that's a very specific kind of circumstance. And I think that, kind of going forward, we want to try to spread the news a little bit more, and hopefully get people interested that way. And just again, it's not like there's been like an issue. It's just, we were like, I feel like we're maybe doing this wrong since everybody else does it the other way. You know what I mean? And it's not that we were like, I mean, every once in a while you're right and everyone else is wrong, but it's sort of rare. So we were like, well, let's take a look at it and see what happens. So, I think that's pretty much about it. I mean, this was not, I would say, tactical. This was more strategic.
I think we gave some tactical advice in there. Like I said, answer those questions, get it down to 2 sentences.
Sure.
Like, stuff. Yeah. But yes, it's a little of both. Highly strategic. We'll call it 70-30. How about that?
Sure. That makes sense. I could say that. Absolutely. I think that it takes time, your first couple of games. One of the reasons also that you don't do your magnum opus on your first couple of games is you haven't built an audience yet either.
Right.
You don't want to waste that and then put it out there. You want to have some guy in a motorcycle to drive by. But instead, what you want is people, I don't know, you want people to kind of learn about it. So it does take some time. There's no trick. There's no specific, like, here's the one weird trick that makes, that's not a thing. Thanks for checking out this episode of the SNARLcast. I appreciate that. We hope we were able to teach you something. If you've got suggestions for future topics, hit us up in the comments, whether it's on YouTube, or you can go to our website. There's a contact thing there, or, whatever, all kinds of different places. Please check out our website, as I mentioned it, at snarlingbadger.com. www.snarlingbadger.com/snarlcast goes right to the website. But otherwise, there's other things there at the website you might want to take a look at as well. Some games, the games and the episodes and all that kind of stuff are over there on the website. Follow us on your podcast software of choice. Leave a review if you get the chance, and we appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.